Hey, Irene.
Hey, Henry.
I'm Henry.
And I'm Irene.
And we're BrainStorm Acres. A few days ago we had to go out of town. Not unexpectedly, it was planned. But what was unexpected was a horrible weather forecast.
Yeah, we went from being solidly in the upper 40s at night to threatened with frost.
And it froze. So we're going to go take a quick look at the garden and see how things fared. So come along. Irene will be joining me on this tour of the garden shortly, but let's go ahead and take a quick look at the peas. Peas are looking great. We were concerned about having some frost damage, but luckily they survived that. Some of the tips of the peas have been eaten off. Whether that's a rat, a mouse, or squirrel, we don't know, but we'll keep an eye out. Our volunteer dill plant is doing really great. It's surprising that it grows this well outside of the bed.
I really cut off all the scapes I could find right before we left. You can see there's just a few new ones that have come up. Jack, stop digging. There's a couple of new ones, so I'll clean out the rest of the scapes again in here tomorrow morning. The elephant garlic was mostly done with scapes by the time we left, so I could only see a couple in there. But these guys had just started the hardneck garlic, so I'm sure that I'll be finding some in there. And this stuff is such fine, and it's planted way too close together, so it's really hard to spot the scapes in here. I have to kind of sit down on the stool and just fiddle through it. But the Jerusalem artichokes are coming up nicely, which is great. Hoping to harvest some of those this year. The thing I was actually most excited about was the broad beans. It came home to the broad beans still being in existence, which I was concerned about. There's some little damage on the edges. Could be frost. We had bizarre weather while we were gone. I'm guessing that's what it is frost. But in general, they seem to be doing really well. A few weeds and a couple of volunteer dills in there, which is just fine. I generally let my dills volunteer wherever they want to, and at some point we just harvest them and stick them in the freezer. One of the nice things about dill is you can just harvest it. You can dry it, or you can decide to just freeze it in small packets in the quantity that you think you might need for cooking. But these seem to have survived, so that's a good thing. And this is our asparagus bed. We harvested this one last time before we left. And we decided that we would just let it go after that. There's a few weeds that need to come out. But other than that, we're just going to let these go. They'll all look like this, except they'll be about that tall. And that will allow the plants to get plenty of energy back into the roots. My analysis of the harvest this year is that we've been adding a lot of mulch, but we haven't added enough fertilizer for my reading. So I'll be definitely upping the organics this year in terms of fertilizer. Somebody has been digging in here, I suspect a squirrel. So we will have to take care of that problem too. But they look pretty healthy and happy, and we'll let them go to seed now. They're really actually quite pretty when they go to seed. And that's why we have some baby ferns like this, because those are from asparagus that went to seed several years ago. The parsnips have got true leaves now. We need to, and the celery's going to seed. We'll take him out of there. Rhubarb. This is part of the Love in the Mist explosion that occurred accidentally last year. I had a couple of random plants that I stuck down here because I didn't have any place else to put them, and they went to seed. Before I realized it, I harvested most of it as dried flowers, but a couple of the seed pods exploded. So I have a quite significant collection of Love in the Mist. I'll probably transplant the ones that are over here, because I can't afford to give that much of a bed to flowers. But I may stick a couple around places. As you can see, we've got some that are more towards a white and more towards a blue. So we'll see what comes of them eventually. The California poppies have to go, unfortunately. Those are amazing. They're one of my favorite ones, and I tried to grow more of these, but fortunately they do come back from seed and from out there, a perennial. So very happy with those, and I'm always happy to see the bachelor buttons. One of my favorite flowers. But there's a bunch of Dianthus under here. I may need to actually transplant them out of there. They transplant pretty well, so I may move them. And the lavender is starting to get flower spikes. So each of these will have clusters of flowers on them. And this will be positively buzzing with all kinds of bees and flies and everything else. Probably ready to harvest in a week or two. This part of the flower bed we did not have time to rework, but this whole section here has been completely excavated, hardware cloth in the bottom and sides, and everything was put back that we could put back in. Lots more things were planted. I didn't really want to plant out before we left, but I really didn't have any choice because we didn't have enough room to try and keep everything alive. We felt that these were plants that would probably survive outside even if it did get full cold, and it looks like we were pretty right. Maybe a couple of zinnias here that don't make it. This section here did not have enough irrigation, so it may come back. I've already watered it. But the zinnias here are fine. We've got bachelor buttons, Love in the Mist, cosmos, all kinds of stuff through here. Sparky, which came out of our Sparky marigolds, which came out of the mystery box that went around. I just had to plant this stuff out to try and save it right before we left. And generally I'd say it's doing pretty well. This part got a little too much sun and not quite enough water. But we'll fix that tomorrow. This is another section of the flower garden that we had to kind of plant on short notice. I simply didn't have any place to put the stuff. I knew that these plants were relatively tough and would take anything but a really, really hard freeze. And I would say it was a pretty darn good success. We have Gomphrena, which is also called Globe Amaranth. We have bachelor buttons. And then there's a lot of the stuff that comes back naturally here. The violas, the hollyhocks, the mums. I have to take a look at that one mum plant. I'm not sure what's going on with that. The back of it just may be a little slow to come back. There's a few weeds in here, but not too bad. This will clean up pretty easily. The only part of this that was not redone was the section right by the front door, which still has yarrow in it. I need to pull that out by hand. But other than that, I think it came out really well. And now the bed by the front gate. This is another bed that I did kind of an emergency plant out on. I can see that a few things didn't care for their transplanting, but there's a bunch of loopings in here that are actually not doing too badly. I need probably a little bit more irrigation in here. Once they're established, they'll be able to make it pretty much without irrigation, but right now they're still a little bit baby. The echinacea that I planted last year is going great guns. Something's been munching on it a little bit, but not too bad. The tick seed, which really did not think it was going to survive transplant last year, has come back with a vengeance, and it's just full of flowers. It's going to be great. About another week. The stuff I planted in over here, I've got some portulaca, I've got some more lupin, there's one random other plant or two in there that came up from old plantings years ago, calendulas, but they seem to have done fine. Well, I did plant some rudbeckia and some butterfly plant. Hasn't come up yet, but I was not impressed with those roots. We bought them at a big box store, and honestly, when I opened the packages, I went, really? But the reason I bought it was because I haven't been able to get rudbeckia at any of the garden centers. So I figured I'd give it a shot. Worst thing, it was a fail. So we'll see. But this is really coming along nicely. The California poppies have made themselves at home. And the other daisy things that we have in here are doing well. The viola always reseeds itself, so it's very happy. So I am generally really pleased. I was very concerned about the stuff that we set out, but there was not a darn thing I could do about it. You just have to kind of trust in Mother Nature. And we didn't get shafted too bad, so that's a good thing.
All these seed starts have survived pretty well. What happened with the bok choy on the end, Irene?
Well, these I did not have time to plant up into anything bigger, and that was one of my big concerns, was that there's not going to be enough volume of water to keep them for the entire time we were gone. I would say that there might be one or two that will croak, but everybody else is already starting to perk up a little bit. They were kind of wilty today, but everybody else made it. The marigolds are fine, the columbines are fine, lots of zinnias still. There's some cosmos in here, and there's plenty of other pak choi, so we'll be eating pak choi in the next day or two. So I am so looking forward to, because the pak choi in the grocery store looks like crap. So yeah, this is what we're really looking forward to, is being able to actually eat this stuff. There was just not enough time physically to get everything potted up or put out into the garden. So
Now, I looked at the beets that we planted and the spinach, and things look pretty good.
yeah, I did not have time to replant the radishes before we left, but there's one lone carrot in there that's just funny. And the beets are okay. I did not have time to thin them, and you didn't thin them either, so I'll have to do that this coming week. They're a little too crowded. But the spinach is looking really good. I would say we can have a salad any day you want to now.
We split our starts between the house and the greenhouse, trying to protect against a freeze. The forecast changed 2 days before our departure. Peas.
Peas. These aren't all the peas we harvested. We've eaten several pods worth, but they are tasty. So I'm going to keep track of these little beggars, and we'll see if we decide to grow them again next year. Our space is kind of at a premium, so it's always kind of a challenge to decide what makes sense and what doesn't. But you sure are tasty.